Welcome back to Celestial Scrolls, where ancient Chinese epics come alive through storytelling. Today, we continue our journey with Tang Sanzang and his disciples in Chapter 16 of Journey to the West, the Valley of Forgotten Souls. After breaking the curse in the Whispering Pines, our heroes now face an even greater challenge, a valley shrouded in mist, where hundreds of souls have been trapped for centuries. The compassionate Tang Sanzang must perform the sacred ritual of remembrance while discovering the terrible truth about a demon known as the Sorrowmonger. This episode explores themes of remembrance, grief, and the eternal cycle of rebirth so central to Buddhist philosophy. You'll witness Monkey King's fierce loyalty, Bajie's reluctant courage, and Tang Sanzang's unwavering compassion as they divert from their sacred mission to free souls in torment. If you're enjoying our Journey to the West series, be sure to like this video and subscribe for the next exciting chapter, the Sorrowmonger of Weeping Peak. Now, let's step into the mist-shrouded valley where whispers of the forgotten await. The morning sun climbed higher in the sky as Tang Sanzang and his disciples left the pine forest behind. The once whispering trees now stood silent, their ancient curse broken. Yet the pilgrims could not shake the feeling that unseen eyes followed their every step. "Master," Wukong said, leaping onto a boulder to scan the horizon, "we should reach the next village by nightfall." Tang Sanzang nodded, his expression serene despite the weariness that clung to his bones. "The journey grows more arduous, but each trial strengthens our resolve." Bajie snorted, adjusting his rake across his broad shoulders. "My resolve would be stronger with a full belly. When did we last enjoy a proper feast?" "Your appetite is endless," Sha Wujing remarked with a gentle smile. "Perhaps your next rebirth will be as a stomach with legs." Their laughter echoed across the valley as the path began to slope downward. Ahead lay a vast expanse dotted with strange rock formations, twisted spires that reached toward the heavens like gnarled fingers. Mist hung between them, shrouding the valley floor. Wukong frowned, his keen eyes narrowing. "There's something wrong about this place." "More demons!" Bajie groaned, already shifting his weight to prepare for battle. "No," Wukong replied, tugging thoughtfully at his ear. "Something older." Tang Sanzang dismounted from his white horse, approaching the valley's edge. "What do your senses tell you, Wukong?" The Monkey King inhaled deeply, his nostrils flaring. "Sorrow, ancient and heavy, like mountains of grief." The pilgrims stood in silence, gazing down at the misty valley. Even Bajie remained quiet, his usual complaints forgotten. "We must proceed," Tang Sanzang finally said. "Our path leads through this valley." Wukong leapt to his master's side. "Let me scout ahead. This fog conceals too much." Before Tang Sanzang could respond, Wukong plucked a hair from his head, blew upon it, and with a cry of "Change!" transformed it into a perfect copy of himself. "Stay with master," he instructed his double, then bounded into the mist with a single leap. The echoing ravine. Deep in the valley, Wukong landed atop a jagged pillar of stone. The mist swirled around him, strangely warm against his fur. He strained his ears, listening. At first, there was only silence. Then, a whisper. No, many whispers, countless voices speaking just below the threshold of understanding. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, rising and falling like distant waves. Wukong somersaulted to another pillar, then another, trying to locate the source. The voices grew louder with each leap. though their words remained indecipherable. Finally, he stood before a narrow ravine cut deep into the earth. The voices poured from it like smoke from a brazier. "Show yourselves," Wukong demanded, his staff glowing golden in his grip. The whispers ceased abruptly. Then a single voice spoke, clear as a temple bell. "We have waited so long for one who can hear us." Wukong circled the ravine cautiously. "Who are you, spirit or demon?" "Neither," came the reply, "and both. We are the forgotten." The mist coalesced, forming translucent figures that hovered at the edge of visibility, men and women in ancient garb, their faces drawn with sorrow. "What do you want?" Wukong demanded. A figure stepped forward, an old man with a long beard that faded into mist. "Justice," he whispered. "Remember us." Wukong's fur bristled. These were no ordinary spirits. "I'll return with my master. He will know how to help you find peace." The old man bowed, already dissolving back into the mist. "Hurry, Monkey King. Time grows short even for the dead." With a single bound, Wukong leapt back through the valley, unease settling in his heart. "The tale of sorrow. Souls," Tang Sanzang murmured when Wukong finished his report. "Souls trapped between realms." The pilgrims had made camp at the valley's edge, unwilling to venture into the mist without understanding what awaited them. "But what keeps them bound to this place?" Xiao Wujing wondered, stoking their small fire. "Spirits should pass to judgment after death." Bajie shuffled uncomfortably. "In my experience, those who linger usually seek vengeance." Tang Sanzang shook his head. "Not all souls remain due to hatred. Some stay because of unfinished duties or injustices that were never addressed." "The old spirit mentioned justice," Wukong said, perched atop his staff. "And remembrance." A soft breeze stirred the campfire, carrying the scent of incense, though none burned. Tang Sanzang stiffened, his eyes growing distant. "Master?" Xiao Wujing leaned forward in concern. "They're reaching out," Tang Sanzang whispered. His hands moved of their own accord, fingers tracing symbols in the air. They wished to share their story. The campfire flared suddenly, its flames stretching impossibly high. Within the dancing light, images began to form. A village nestled among the stone pillars, people working, living, laughing, children playing beneath flowering trees. Then darkness, a horde of demons descending upon the village, screams, blood, fire consuming everything. The flames dimmed, revealing the aftermath. Bodies scattered across the valley floor. A single demon standing amid the carnage, drinking in the suffering like wine. "The Sorrowmonger," Tang Sanzang said, his voice hollow. "A demon that feeds on grief." The fire returned to normal, leaving the pilgrims in shocked silence. "It consumed their lives," Tang Sanzang continued, "but found their suffering so exquisite that it bound their souls to this place, feeding on their eternal sorrow." Bajie shuddered. "Where is this demon now?" "Gone," Wukong replied grimly. "The spirits didn't mention it. Perhaps it left to find new victims after exhausting these souls." Tang Sanzang rose, his decision made. "We must help them find peace." "How?" Xiao Wujing asked. "If the demon that bound them is gone, the binding remains," Tang Sanzang said. "We must sever it and allow these souls to find their rightful place in the next world." Bajie groaned. "Why is it never as simple as just walking through?" The ritual of remembrance dawn broke gray and somber over the valley of forgotten souls. The pilgrims descended into the mist, Tang Sanzang leading the way with steady steps. Wukong bounded ahead, guiding them toward the ravine where the spirits had appeared. As they walked, the mist clung to them like wet silk. Whispers surrounded them, growing louder with each step. "They know we've come to help," Tang Sanzang said softly. Bajie kept his rake ready. "Or they're preparing to welcome us permanently." Wukong shot him a glare. "These aren't demons, idiot. They're victims." "Even victims can become dangerous when trapped long enough," Bajie muttered. When they reached the ravine, the mist parted to reveal a circle of stone pillars, each carved with ancient symbols now worn nearly smooth by time. At the center stood a weathered altar, dark stains marking its surface. The spirits gathered around them, more substantial now, men, women, children, all bearing the marks of violent ends. The old man from before approached Tang Sanzang and bowed deeply. "Holy monk," he said, his voice like rustling leaves, "have you come to free us?" Tang Sanzang returned the bow. "I will try. How many souls are trapped here?" 316, the spirit replied. "Our entire village." Tang Sanzang's eyes widened. To free so many at once would require immense spiritual power. "The demon," he said, "the one who bound you here, what was its true name?" The old man shook his head. "We never knew. It came in the night, wearing a human face. Only when the slaughter began did it reveal its true form." "It matters not," Tang Sanzang decided. "I will perform the Ritual of Remembrance." Wukong stepped forward. "Master, such a ritual for so many souls will drain you completely." "Then I will need your strength," Tang Sanzang replied calmly. "All of you." He instructed his disciples to stand at 3 points around the altar, forming a triangle with himself at the 4th point. From his robes, he produced a small packet of sacred paper and a brush. "Each soul must be acknowledged," he explained as he began to write. "Their names, their lives, their deaths, all must be remembered and honored." "But we don't know their names," Sha Wujing said. Tang Sanzang smiled gently. "They will tell us." One by one, the spirits approached. Each whispered in Tang Sanzang's ear, and he wrote their name upon a slip of paper. Hours passed. The pile of paper grew. Tang Sanzang's hand trembled with exhaustion, but he refused to rest. As the sun began to set, though it was barely visible through the mist, the last spirit, a small child, whispered her name to Tang Sanzang. With shaking fingers, he completed the final slip. "Now," he said, his voice hoarse, "we must burn these names while reciting the Sutra of Liberation." The disciples gathered the papers and placed them on the altar. Wukong struck his staff against the stone, creating a spark that ignited the pile. As the flames consumed the names, Tang Sanzang began to chant. His disciples joined him, their voices rising in harmony. The spirits gathered closer, drawn to the ritual that would free them at last. The chanting grew more intense. The flames burned higher, though the papers should have been consumed in moments. A wind rose, swirling around the circle, carrying the ashes upward in a spiraling column. Tang Sanzang swayed, his strength failing. Wukong moved to support him, lending his own considerable power to his master. "Almost done," Tang Sanzang whispered. "The final verse." As the last words left his lips, the wind became a tempest. The spirits began to glow, their forms becoming brighter, more solid, as if returning to life for one brief moment. The old man approached Tang Sanzang one last time. "Thank you," he said, his voice strong and clear. "We can finally rest." One by one, the spirits rose into the air, their faces peaceful at last. they ascended in a great column of light, 316 souls finding their way to judgment and, hopefully, rebirth. When the last spirit had vanished, Tang Sanzang collapsed to his knees. Wukong and Sha Wujing rushed to his side while Bajie stood guard, ever watchful for treachery. "It is done," Tang Sanzang murmured. "They are free." The mist that had shrouded the valley began to dissipate, revealing a landscape of stark beauty. The stone pillars stood like silent sentinels under the emerging stars. "Look," Sha Wujing said, pointing. Where the village had once stood, flowers now bloomed, vivid blue blossoms that seemed to glow in the gathering darkness. "Soul flowers," Tang Sanzang said with a smile. "They grow where spirits find peace." Wukong helped his master to his feet. "We should rest here tonight. You've spent too much energy." For once, Tang Sanzang did not argue. The ritual had drained him completely, but the sight of those flowers brought him more joy than any rest could provide. The lingering shadow. That night, while his disciples slept around the dying campfire, Tang Sanzang sat in meditation. Though his body craved rest, his spirit remained restless. A soft voice broke his concentration. "Holy monk!" Tang Sanzang opened his eyes to find a single spirit before him, a woman of middle years, her form more substantial than the others had been. "You did not ascend with the others," Tang Sanzang observed. The spirit nodded. "I could not. My task is unfinished." "What keeps you bound to this world?" The woman's eyes darkened. "The Sorrowmonger still exists. It left our valley centuries ago, but continues its foul work elsewhere." Tang Sanzang's heart grew heavy. "Where?" "It travels from place to place, feeding on grief and binding souls. But it has established a stronghold 3 days' journey from here, a mountain known as Weeping Peak." "How do you know this?" The spirit's form flickered. "Because part of each of us remained connected to it. As the others ascended, I glimpsed its current dwelling through our bond." Tang Sanzang considered this information carefully. Their journey west could not be delayed for too long, yet they could not ignore such evil. "What is your name, spirit?" he asked. "Lin Mei," she replied. "I was the healer of our village." "Then your compassion keeps you here, even now?" Tang Sanzang bowed his head. "We will investigate this demon. If we can destroy it, all its bindings will be broken." Lin Mei's form brightened slightly. "Thank you, holy monk. I will guide you as best I can." With that, she faded from sight, leaving Tang Sanzang alone with his thoughts. He gazed up at the stars, now visible through the clear air. The path west was never straight, it seemed. Each step forward often required a step to the side, or even backward. Yet all paths ultimately led to enlightenment for those with patience and faith. With this thought providing comfort, Tang Sanzang finally allowed himself to rest. The decision. Morning brought renewed vigor to the pilgrims. Tang Sanzang shared his midnight visitation as they broke camp. Wukong immediately volunteered to scout ahead to Weeping Peak, but Tang Sanzang shook his head. "We will face this together," he said. "But first, we must decide. Do we divert from our path to confront this demon?" Bajie, predictably, argued against it. "Master, our mission is to retrieve the scriptures. This detour could cost us weeks." Sha Wujing disagreed. "If this Sorrowmonger continues to bind souls, preventing them from the cycle of rebirth, isn't that an offense against heaven itself? Would the Buddha not wish us to stop such sacrilege?" Tang Sanzang listened to their arguments, his gaze distant. Finally, he turned to Wukong. "And what do you think, eldest disciple?" Wukong twirled his staff thoughtfully. "I think," he said with a growing smile, "that this journey would be dull without a few demons to bash." Tang Sanzang couldn't help but smile at his disciple's enthusiasm. "Then it's decided. We head for Weeping Peak. If Lin Mei is correct, a great evil awaits us there." Bajie sighed dramatically but didn't protest further. Deep down, even he couldn't bear the thought of souls trapped in eternal suffering. As they prepared to depart, Tang Sanzang paused to gather a handful of the soul flowers. He tucked them carefully into his robe. "A reminder," he explained when Sha Wu Jing questioned him, "that even the deepest sorrow can eventually bloom into beauty." With renewed purpose, the pilgrims set out toward Weeping Peak, where a demon of ancient malice awaited. The path west would remain untraveled a while longer, but their detour would bring freedom to countless bound souls, a worthy cause for even the most devoted pilgrim. The journey continued, as it always did, one step at a time, toward a horizon that seemed forever out of reach. And that's where we'll leave our pilgrims for today, standing at the crossroads of duty and compassion as they prepare to confront the Sorrowmonger of Weeping Peak. Thank you for joining us for Chapter 16 of Journey to the West. What did you think of Tang Sanzang's ritual to free the trapped souls? Or Wukong's encounter with the spirits in the mist? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tale of supernatural adventure and Buddhist compassion, please hit that like button and subscribe to Celestial Scrolls for more epic stories from Chinese mythology. Next time, we'll follow our heroes to Weeping Peak as they confront one of their most dangerous adversaries yet. Remember to turn on notifications so you don't miss Chapter 17, where we'll discover if the pilgrims can defeat a demon that feeds on eternal sorrow. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may your journey be filled with wisdom and adventure.